Commander Taemin Park stood in front of the big window on his spaceship. Outside, strange stars moved slowly in the dark space. His ship, the UES Horizon, had been flying through unknown parts of the galaxy for 3 long years. Every day brought new disappointments. "Sir, another alien government just said no to us," reported So Young Kang from her seat at the communications station. Her voice sounded tired and frustrated. "The Keltharian trade group says we humans are not important enough to be their partners." Taemin nodded slowly. This happened all the time. Humans had learned how to travel faster than light only 50 years ago. Most alien races had been flying between stars for thousands of years. To them, humans were just babies who had somehow stumbled into the big playground of space. Dr. Yuna Kim walked onto the bridge from her science lab. She carried a small computer in her hands and looked upset. As the ship's main scientist and the person who tried to talk with aliens, she had spent months trying to make friends with the established space civilizations. "The Nexari ambassador was very rude today," she told Taemin. "He called us echo people from the edge of the galaxy. He said we should learn our proper place instead of trying to make deals with the important civilizations." Jin Ho Nam looked up from his engineering controls. "At least they talk to us sometimes. The Zilani people will not even answer our messages. Their computer just sends back the same response every time. It says humans do not have enough historical knowledge to have meaningful conversations with them." The bridge became quiet, except for the soft humming sounds the ship made. Taemin had heard these same insults from every major alien civilization they had met. Humans were too young, too primitive, too far away from the center of the galaxy to matter to anyone. The galaxy was divided into different regions. The center held the most powerful and oldest civilizations. The middle rings contained the trading routes and industrial worlds. The outer rim where Earth was located was considered the backwater area where nothing important ever happened. "Commander," called Captain Dongwoo Lee from the pilot controls, "I am getting some strange energy readings from the Kepler area. The computer cannot match them with any known alien technology in our files." Taemin walked over to look at the display screen. The readings showed massive energy signals unlike anything they had records of from known alien civilizations. "How far away is it?" "About 40 light-years past the normal trade routes. It is in an area that the galactic maps mark as empty void space." Dr. Yuna Kim looked at her own readings with confusion. "That is very strange. According to the history files we bought from the Keltharians, that whole region has been empty for over 10,000 years. Something about an old civilization that just disappeared. Maybe it is not as empty as they think," Taemin said. "Change our course. We need to investigate this." So Young Kang looked worried. "Commander, we do not have permission from any galactic authority to explore that region. If we find something important and we are not supposed to be there, then we will be the first ones to report it." Taemin replied firmly. "If the established civilizations want to treat us like children, maybe it is time we stopped asking for their permission to explore our own galaxy." The crew had mixed feelings about this decision. They were tired of being ignored and insulted by every alien government they met. At the same time, they knew that going into restricted space could cause serious diplomatic problems. Jin Ho Nam began calculating the course change. "It will take us 4 days to reach the energy source location. Should I prepare the science equipment for deep space analysis?" "Yes," Taemin answered. "And prepare the defense systems too. We do not know what we might find out there." Dr. Yuna Kim started reviewing all the historical information they had about that region of space. Most of it came from old Keltharian trading records and some fragments from Zilani historical databases. The information was incomplete and often contradictory. "According to what I can find," she reported, "there was once a very powerful civilization in that area. The records call them the Vorthak, but all references to them just stopped suddenly about 12,000 years ago. No explanations, no gradual decline, just nothing." Captain Dongwoo Lee programmed the new course into the ship's navigation system. "Why would such a powerful civilization just vanish completely?" "Maybe they did not vanish," Jin Ho Nam suggested. "Maybe they just went somewhere else." So Young Kang was monitoring long-range communications while they traveled. "I am picking up some scattered reports from our monitoring stations back in human space. They are detecting unusual energy patterns in several different sectors, all in areas that are supposed to be empty." The 4-day journey gave the crew time to think about what they might discover. They had joined the Space Exploration Service to make contact with alien civilizations and represent humanity among the stars. Instead, they had spent 3 years being told they were not important enough to matter. Dr. Una Kim spent hours studying the incomplete historical records. There are some very strange gaps in the galactic historical databases, she noted. Almost like someone deliberately removed information about certain topics. What kind of topics? Taemin asked. Anything related to major galactic conflicts more than 10,000 years ago. The records talk about trade and cultural development, but they skip over anything that might have involved major wars or conquered civilizations. On the third day of their journey, they began detecting more detailed energy readings from their destination. The signals were definitely artificial, but they did not match any known technology patterns in their databases. Jin Ho Nam worked to analyze the readings. These energy signatures are incredibly powerful, but they are using principles we do not understand. It is like they are drawing power from sources that should not be possible according to our physics. Could it be some kind of natural phenomenon? Dongwu Li asked. No, Jin Ho replied. The patterns are too regular and too complex. This is definitely technology, just not technology like anything we have seen before. As the horizon approached the source of the mysterious energy readings, the crew prepared for what might be the most important discovery in human history. They had no idea that they were about to uncover evidence of a threat that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The humans, dismissed as distant echoes from the galactic rim, were about to become the first to hear the approaching storm that would test every civilization in the galaxy. Dr. Una Kim stared at the holographic display in her science lab. Her hands were shaking as she looked at what she had discovered. The ancient ruins floating in empty space contained data storage devices that somehow still worked after thousands of years. Commander Park, you need to see this right now, she called over the ship's communication system. Her voice was filled with worry and excitement. Taemin arrived at the lab within minutes. Jin Ho Nam followed behind him. He had been working on getting information from the mysterious ruins they had found. The hologram showed star maps covering the entire galaxy, but with borders and territories completely different from anything in current galactic maps. What am I looking at? Taemin asked as he studied the strange display. This is what the galaxy looked like 12,000 years ago, Una replied. According to these records, there was a civilization called the Vorthak that controlled more than half of all inhabited star systems. They were not just another space-traveling species, Commander. They were an empire that ruled over everything. Jinho worked with the display controls, showing massive fleet formations and technology specifications that made current galactic civilizations look like children playing with toys. Their spaceships were 3 times bigger than anything flying today. Their weapons were so powerful that we cannot even measure them properly with our equipment. What happened to them? Taemin asked as he studied the data with growing concern. That is the scary part, Una continued. The records just stop. One day they controlled half the galaxy and then nothing. No slow decline, no great war, no gradual collapse. They simply disappeared from all historical records. So Young Kang's voice came through the intercom speakers. Commander, we are receiving urgent messages from our deep space monitoring stations back in human territory. They are reporting massive energy signatures moving through the outer void areas, heading toward inhabited systems. Taemin felt his stomach drop. What kind of energy signatures? Unknown patterns, but they matched the technology profiles we found in those ruins. The bridge of the horizon became busy with urgent activity. Dongwu Li calculated courses back toward human space while Jin Ho Nam worked to put together their findings into a complete report. Dr. Una Kim focused on translating more of the ancient records they had discovered. I am finding references to something called the Great Retreat, she announced after working for several hours. The Vorthak did not disappear. They withdrew to the empty space beyond the galaxy, and according to this information, they always planned to come back. Taemin activated the long-range communication system. So Young opened channels to every galactic government. Make this an emergency priority transmission. Sir, they usually do not respond to human emergency broadcasts, she replied with hesitation. Make them respond this time. Send them everything we have found. Over the next several hours, the Horizon transmitted detailed reports about the Vorthak discovery to the Keltharian Trade Consortium, the Nixari Military Alliance, the Zalani Archive Keepers, and every other major civilization they had contact information for. The responses were exactly what they expected, but worse than they had hoped. The Keltharian Trade Consortium sent back a formal message stating that human interpretation of old ruins lacks the sophistication necessary for accurate historical analysis. They suggested that humans should leave archaeological work to more experienced civilizations. The EU, Nexari Military Command responded that rim-dwelling species often misunderstand ancient ruins because they do not have enough galactic experience to properly evaluate what they find. The most insulting response came from the Zelani archive keepers. Their message said that the species in question demonstrates typical newcomer anxiety about galactic history they do not understand. They stated clearly that the Vorthak are mythological stories, not historical reality. Jinho Nam hit his control panel with his fist in frustration. They will not listen to us. We are showing them proof of an ancient empire coming back, and they think we are telling children's stories. Dr. Yuna Kim looked up from her continued translation work. Her face was pale with worry. Commander, there is something else in these records. The Vorthak specifically monitor the development of new space-traveling civilizations. When a species reaches a certain level of technology development, they become a target for conquest or elimination. How close are we to that level? Taemin asked. Based on these criteria, humanity crossed that line about 5 years ago. According to these records, we should have been contacted by now. The implications made everyone on the bridge feel cold with fear. The Vorthak were returning to reclaim their empire. The established galactic civilizations refused to believe the warnings from humans, and humanity might already be marked for destruction. Dr. Yuna Kim continued reading the ancient files. There is more information here about their methods. The Vorthak do not negotiate or make treaties. They give civilizations a choice: complete submission or total destruction. There is no middle ground. What about their technology? Jinho Nam asked. Do these records show anything about their weapons or defenses? Yes, but it is not good news. Their technology was already superior to anything that existed 12,000 years ago. They have had all this time to advance even further. Whatever they are bringing back with them will be far beyond anything the current galactic civilizations can handle. Taemin studied the galactic map on the main display. What is their most likely approach route? They will probably come from the outer rim first, Yuna replied. That is where they withdrew to originally. They will want to test current galactic defenses before committing to major battles. So, young Kang looked up from her communication station. Commander, I am getting more reports from our monitoring stations. The energy signatures are definitely getting closer to inhabited systems. Our deep space sensors estimate they will reach the first outer rim colonies within 2 weeks. Set course for Earth immediately, Taemin ordered. Maximum speed. If the galaxy will not prepare for what is coming, then we have to prepare ourselves. Captain Dongwu Li began programming the navigation system for the fastest possible route back to human space. Course laid in, Commander. We can reach Earth in 6 days if we push the engines to their limits. As the Horizon jumped into hyperspace, carrying news of an ancient threat that no one would believe, the crew realized they might be the only ones who truly understood what was coming. The Vorthak scouts were already probing the defenses of outer rim worlds, testing the strength of civilizations that had grown soft during 12,000 years of peace. The distant echoes from the galactic rim had tried to warn everyone, but their voices had been ignored once again. Captain Dongwu Li flew his small reconnaissance ship through what used to be the Kelthar Prime system. Where millions of living beings had worked and lived just 3 days ago, now only twisted pieces of metal and cooling plasma floated in the dark space. Control, this is Scout 7, he transmitted back to the human monitoring station. Kelthar Prime is completely gone. The entire planet has been destroyed. Whatever weapons did this turned the planetary surface into vapor. The response from Admiral He Jin Choi came through his radio with a serious tone. Any survivors in the system? Scanning the area now. Dongwu's instruments searched through the wreckage for any signs of life. Wait, I have something. There is an emergency signal coming from a damaged transport ship. He guided his fighter toward the wounded vessel. Its outer hull was scarred by energy weapons completely different from anything in current galactic military forces. Through the windows, he could see the frightened faces of various alien species who had somehow survived the attack. After connecting his ship to the transport and bringing the survivors aboard a human rescue vessel, Dongwu listened to their stories with growing horror. The refugees spoke of enormous ships that had appeared without any warning. Their hulls were black as the space around them and covered with weapons that cut, through planetary defense shields like they were made of paper. They called themselves the Vorthak, whispered a traumatized Keltharian, traitor named Velkaroth. They sent a message before they started shooting. They said they had returned to take back what belonged to them. They gave everyone 1 hour to leave the planet. Then they destroyed everything that remained. Back at Human Defense Command on Earth, Admiral Haijin Choi studied the tactical reports with Commander Taemin Park and Dr. Yuna Kim. The news was terrible. In just 72 hours, the Vorthak had attacked 12 major star systems. They had destroyed any resistance with frightening ease. The Nexari military sent their best battle groups to fight the Vorthak. Fleet at Rigel Station, reported So Young Kang from her communications workstation. 300 warships with their most advanced technology. The entire force was destroyed in less than 20 minutes. Jinho Nam brought up holographic displays showing the energy readings from each attack. These are not just better weapons than what we have. This is technology that makes our current understanding of science look primitive. Their ships do not use normal engines, and their weapons draw power from sources we cannot even identify. Dr. Yuna Kim looked at her translations of the ancient records they had discovered. The historical data we found was completely accurate. The Vorthak did not just retreat 12,000 years ago. They used all that time to advance their technology far beyond anything that existed when they left the galaxy. Taemin studied the galactic map, now marked with red symbols showing conquered systems. What pattern are they following in their attacks? They are working inward from the outer rim areas, Admiral Choi replied. They are systematically taking control of trade routes and industrial centers. But there is something else we have noticed. They are not immediately taking over conquered worlds. They eliminate all resistance and then move on to the next target. They are clearing the playing field, Jinho Nam realized. They are not interested in governing individual planets right now. They want to break the military power of galactic civilization first. The communication system suddenly came alive with emergency transmissions from across the galaxy. So young Kang worked frantically to sort through the chaos of panicked messages coming from every direction. Multiple requests for help are coming in from the Zelani Archive worlds, she reported. The Keltharian Trade Consortium is broadcasting a general distress call, asking for military assistance. Even the Nexari are requesting emergency consultations with anyone who might be able to help them. Admiral Choi looked at Taemin with a mixture of satisfaction and grim determination. Suddenly everyone wants to talk to the Echo people from the outer rim. What should our response be? Taemin asked. We help them, Choi replied without hesitation. But this time we do it on our terms. Jinho, what is the current status of Project Silent Thunder? Jinho Nam's expression became suddenly serious. All prototype vessels are operational, Admiral. The hybrid weapon systems are testing within acceptable limits. If we are going to show what we have been working on, now would be the right time. Dr. Yuna Kim looked confused. Project Silent Thunder? While other species have spent centuries making their existing technologies better, Admiral Choi explained, humanity has been developing something completely different. We have been preparing for the possibility that we might have to fight an enemy with superior normal capabilities. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. While the established galactic civilizations had been ignoring human warnings and dismissing human capabilities, humanity had been secretly preparing for exactly this scenario. Taemin activated the secure communication system. All human colonies and defense stations, this is command authority. Begin Protocol 7 immediately. Silent Thunder is now active. Across human space, hidden facilities began powering up weapons and ships that nobody else in the galaxy knew existed. These represented a completely different approach to warfare. While other civilizations had pursued perfection in their traditional military methods, humanity had spent decades developing adaptive, unconventional systems designed to fight enemies they could not match in direct confrontation. Captain Dongwoo Lee received new orders as he escorted the refugee convoy back to safety. All pilots report to classified briefing stations immediately. We are about to show the galaxy that being underestimated can sometimes be a very big advantage. The Vorthak continued their systematic conquest of the galactic core systems. Their ancient battle plans were working perfectly. They remained completely unaware that the species they had, dismissed as primitive rim dwellers, were preparing to demonstrate that sometimes the quietest voice in the room can become the loudest when it needs to be heard. In secret facilities across human space, weapons that had never been tested in actual combat were being prepared for deployment. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had spent 50 years learning not just how to survive among the stars, but how to fight for them when survival was not enough. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Defense Council took place in a heavily protected bunker, deep under the surface of Sanctuary Station. This was one of the few major space installations that remained beyond Vorthak reach. Representatives from dozens of different species sat in shocked silence as casualty reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy. Admiral Hai-Jin Choi entered the chamber wearing the simple gray uniform of Human Defense Forces. Her presence caused a wave of desperate hope among the assembled delegates. Dr. Yuna Kim walked beside her, carrying data storage devices containing intelligence information that might be their only chance of survival. "Honored delegates," began the Nexari military commander. His proud warrior appearance was now humbled by the devastating losses his people had suffered. "We formally request human assistance in organizing our defense against the Vorthak threat." The Keltharian trade representative was one of the few survivors from the destruction of their home world. She spoke with barely controlled emotion. "Our species owes humanity a sincere apology. You warned us about this danger, and we dismissed your concerns as the fears of an inexperienced civilization." Admiral Choi took her place at the speaker's platform. "Apologies will not bring back the billions of lives we have lost. What matters now is whether we can work together to stop the Vorthak before they complete their conquest of the galaxy." Commander Taman Park activated holographic displays, showing the current military situation. Red zones marked conquered systems, while shrinking patches of blue showed remaining free territory. The Vorthak have taken control of 43% of inhabited systems in just 2 weeks. At their current rate of advance, organized resistance will collapse completely within 1 month. "What do you propose we do?" asked the Zilani archive keeper. Her calm, scholarly composure was cracked by the magnitude of the disaster facing all civilizations. Jin Ho Nam stepped forward. His engineering expertise was now desperately needed by species that had once ignored human technological contributions. "We have been analyzing captured Vorthak technology and energy signatures from the battle sites. Their ships are indeed superior to anything we have previously encountered, but they do have weaknesses we can exploit." The display screen showed detailed scans of Vorthak vessels engaged in battle with normal galactic fleets. Their power systems are incredibly advanced, but they are also incredibly centralized. Each ship draws all its energy from a single massive core. If we can disrupt those power cores, their weapons and shields fail catastrophically. Dr. Yuna Kim added her analysis to the presentation. More importantly, the Vorthak appear to have kept their ancient tactical methods unchanged. They expect to face the same types of resistance they encountered 12,000 years ago. They are not prepared for asymmetric warfare. "What do you mean by asymmetric warfare?" questioned the Nexari commander. Captain Dongwu Li, now wearing the rank insignia of a Special Operations Squadron leader, explained the concept. "Instead of trying to match their firepower directly, we hit them where they do not expect resistance. Small, fast attacks against their supply lines and support vessels. We force them to spread their forces thin across many different targets." Admiral Choi brought up classified human military assets on the main display. The assembled delegates stared in amazement at ships and weapons completely unlike anything they had seen before. "While your civilizations pursued perfection in normal military technology," she explained, "humanity developed adaptive systems. Our ships are not as powerful as yours in direct confrontation, but they are designed to change their configuration rapidly, operate independently for long periods, and use weapon systems that can be modified during actual combat." So Young Kang, now serving as communications coordinator for the Allied forces, demonstrated the human approach to information warfare. "We have also been working on something your species have not considered necessary: psychological operations. The Vorthak believe they are invincible because they have never faced sustained resistance that adapts to their methods. We are going to change that belief." The Keltharian representative studied the human ship specifications with growing interest. "These designs are completely different from our traditional approaches. Your vessels sacrifice armor plating and raw firepower for speed and adaptability." "Exactly correct," confirmed Jin Ho Nam. "We cannot outgun the Vorthak in direct confrontation, but we can outthink them. Our ships can reconfigure their weapon systems, alter their energy signatures to confuse targeting systems, and continue operating effectively even when severely damaged." Commander Taman Park outlined the strategic plan they had developed. We divide our combined forces into 3 operational groups. The first group maintains normal defensive positions to make the Vorthak think we are fighting the same way everyone else has tried. The second group conducts deep strike operations against their logistics and supply networks. The third group focuses on rescue and evacuation operations to preserve as many civilian lives as possible. What about coordination between our different forces? Asked the Zalani keeper. Our species have different communication methods, command structures, and tactical doctrines that have never worked together before. Dr. Yuna Kim smiled for the first time in weeks. We have prepared for that problem too. Human diplomatic and communication specialists have spent years learning your languages, customs, and military procedures. We can serve as translators and coordinators, allowing your forces to work together effectively for the first time in galactic history. Admiral Choi looked around the chamber at faces that now showed hope instead of despair. The Vorthak dismissed humanity as distant echoes because we are newcomers to the galactic community. They do not understand that being newcomers gave us a different perspective on galactic problems. We have spent 50 years studying all of your civilizations, learning your strengths and finding ways to compensate for your traditional weaknesses. The Nexari commander stood up from his seat. What do you need from us to make this plan work? Complete cooperation and trust, Taman replied. You must be willing to follow human tactical leadership even when our methods seem strange or unconventional. You must be prepared to fight in ways your military traditions have never considered. The vote to accept human leadership of the combined defense effort was unanimous. Every species that had previously dismissed humanity as irrelevant now placed their survival in human hands. As the delegates prepared to return to their forces and begin implementing the new strategy, Captain Dongwu Li prepared to lead the first asymmetric strike against Vorthak forces. The species that had once been told to learn their place in the galaxy were about to teach everyone that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you completely underestimate. The first coordinated strike began at exactly 4 a.m, Galactic Standard Time. It happened across 17 different star systems at the same moment. Captain Dongwu Li led Squadron Wraith through the outer edge of a Vorthak supply convoy. His modified fighter used stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to their detection systems. Ghost leader to all units, he transmitted on the encrypted communication channel. Remember, we are not here to destroy their main battle group. Hit the supply vessels hard and withdraw before they can organize an effective response. His squadron was made up of human pilots flying ships that used technology from all major galactic civilizations. These hybrid vessels created something the Vorthak had never encountered before. Keltharian shield generators provided defense systems, Nexari weapons delivered serious firepower, and Zalani sensor arrays offered unprecedented tactical awareness. All of this was integrated together by human engineering innovation. Contact confirmed, reported his wingman. Vorthak supply formation ahead. 12 transport vessels escorted by 4 destroyer-class warships. Dongwu studied his tactical display carefully. The Vorthak maintained their ancient formation patterns, designed to repel conventional frontal assaults from a single direction. Execute attack pattern Songbird. Hit them from below and behind simultaneously. The human fighters dove beneath the orbital plane, using the gravity field of a nearby moon to mask their approach vector. When they struck, it was with weapons that shifted frequency and targeting patterns faster than Vorthak defensive systems could adapt to counter them. Within 8 minutes, 8 supply ships were either crippled or completely destroyed. The squadron disappeared back into empty space before the Vorthak escorts could mount an effective pursuit or counterattack. Similar strikes occurred simultaneously across the galaxy as mixed human-alien task forces implemented tactics that had never been used in conventional galactic warfare. Admiral Haijin Choi coordinated the overall campaign from the Mobile Command Center aboard the UES Defiance, a ship that represented the best combination of galactic technology under human strategic leadership. Strike. Group 7 report successful. Interdiction of Vorthak reinforcements at the Kepler 442 system, announced So Young Kang from her expanded communication station. Strike Group 12 has eliminated the Vorthak communication relay at Vega Station. All objectives achieved with minimal casualties. Jin Ho Nam monitored the technical aspects of the campaign from his greatly expanded engineering center. The hybrid systems are performing beyond our original specifications. Vorthak targeting computers cannot achieve weapon locks on our ships because they keep changing their energy signatures during combat. Dr. Yuna Kim worked with intelligence teams from multiple species, analyzing captured Vorthak communications for useful tactical intelligence. They are definitely confused and frustrated, she reported after reviewing the intercepted transmissions. Their field commanders do not understand why their traditional tactics are not working effectively. Commander Tae-min Park studied the strategic display showing the overall progress of the campaign. Red zones marking Vorthak territorial control were no longer expanding across the galactic map. For the first time since the invasion began, the front lines were holding steady. The psychological warfare component is working exactly as we planned, noted the Nexari liaison officer who had been assigned to the human command staff. Vorthak commanders are becoming more cautious in their operations. They are deploying larger escort forces for supply convoys and keeping their battle groups closer together for mutual support, which makes them less effective at rapid conquest operations. Admiral Choi observed with satisfaction, "When you are accustomed to overwhelming technological superiority, having to worry about your supply lines and rear areas slows down everything you try to accomplish." The major turning point came during the Battle of Centauri Junction, a critical hyperspace nexus that controlled access routes to the heavily populated galactic core systems. The Vorthak committed a massive fleet to capture this strategic location, expecting the same easy victory they had achieved everywhere else they had struck. Instead, they found themselves walking into a carefully prepared trap. Captain Dongwoo Lee led the fighter screen for the combined Allied fleet. His pilots now included volunteers from every surviving civilization in the galaxy. All squadrons execute the hammer and anvil tactical maneuver. Keltharian wings take the left and right flanks. Nexari fighters provide heavy frontal assault. Human units maintain the mobile tactical reserve. The battle raged continuously for 18 hours. Ships from dozens of different species fought with a coordination that had never been achieved in galactic history. But more importantly, the combined fleet held the critical junction against overwhelming odds. Even more significantly, they destroyed 3 Vorthak heavy cruisers and captured one of their smaller vessels completely intact. Jin-Ho, Nam's detailed analysis of the captured enemy ship provided crucial intelligence about Vorthak capabilities and limitations. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it is also incredibly specialized for specific combat roles. Every system is optimized for maximum efficiency in their traditional tactical applications. The problem is they cannot adapt quickly to new tactical situations that fall outside their programmed parameters. They have been fighting the same way for 12,000 years. Dr. Yuna Kim realized as she studied the technical specifications. They never needed to evolve their tactical methods, because they always possessed overwhelming technological superiority over any opposition they encountered. Admiral Choi called for a general staff meeting with military representatives from all allied species. "We have proven that the Vorthak can be fought effectively using unconventional methods. Now we need to transition from defensive operations to taking the offensive initiative." The Zalani Archive Keeper, now serving as the primary intelligence coordinator for the Alliance, presented their strategic assessment of Vorthak positions. Enemy forces are consolidating around 3 major staging areas in preparation for what appears to be a final coordinated push to capture the remaining government centers and industrial worlds. "Then we hit them first before they can launch their final offensive," declared the Nexari military commander. His confidence had been completely restored by the recent series of victories. Commander Tae-min Park outlined the ambitious offensive plan they had developed. 3 coordinated strikes against their major staging areas, supported by massive diversionary attacks to keep their strategic reserves occupied and unable to respond effectively. "We use every available ship, every trained pilot, and every tactical advantage we have developed during this conflict." So Young, Kang coordinated with communication specialists from multiple species to ensure perfect timing and coordination across the largest military operation in recorded galactic history. As the Allied fleets prepared for the decisive offensive campaign, Captain Dongwoo Lee reflected on how completely the situation had changed. Just months ago, humanity had been dismissed as irrelevant newcomers who did not matter to galactic civilization. Now human tactical doctrine and adaptive technology were leading the galaxy's desperate fight for survival against an ancient enemy. The distant echoes from the rim had become the rallying cry that united every free civilization in their determination to preserve their independence. The final battle for the galaxy began above New Corinth, the administrative capital that had served as the center of galactic civilization for over 3,000 years. The Vorthak had assembled their most powerful fleet around this star system, preparing to eliminate the last organized resistance in a single overwhelming strike that would end all opposition forever. Commander Taemin Park stood on the bridge of the UES Liberation, flagship of the combined galactic fleet. Around him worked officers from 12 different species. Their different body types and cultures were now united by a common determination to preserve their freedom and independence. Fleet status report, he requested from So-Young Kang, who now served as communications coordinator for the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 347 vessels from 12 species, all reporting ready for combat operations, she replied efficiently. Human adaptive squadrons are in position for asymmetric strike operations. Keltharian heavy cruisers are providing main battle line support. Nexari assault wings are prepared for close engagement tactics. Admiral Hee-Jin Choi studied the tactical displays from the Fleet Command Center. The screen showed both fleets positioned for the decisive engagement that would determine the future of galactic civilization. The Vorthak have committed everything they have to this battle. If we can break their main fleet here, their remaining forces will not be able to maintain control of the systems they have conquered. Jin Ho Nam worked frantically at his expanded engineering station, coordinating the hybrid technologies that had become the key to their military success. All integrated systems are functioning within optimal parameters. The adaptive weapons are synchronized across all allied vessels. We are as ready as we can possibly be. Dr. Yuna Kim monitored intelligence communication channels for any last-minute tactical information that might give them an advantage. Vorthak communications indicate they are confident this battle will end organized resistance permanently. They are not expecting the level of coordination and tactical innovation we have achieved. The Vorthak fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Their massive dreadnought warships were arranged in the classical battle lines that had conquered the galaxy 12,000 years earlier. Their fleet commander transmitted a final demand for immediate unconditional surrender, offering to spare civilian populations if all military resistance ceased immediately. Commander Taemin Park's response was broadcast to every ship in both fleets. The galaxy is no longer impressed by ancient threats from the past. We have learned to stand together. We choose to fight for our freedom. The battle began with long-range weapon exchanges between the heavy capital ships of both opposing fleets. Vorthak weapons designed for maximum destructive power tore through conventional shields and armor plating with terrifying efficiency. But the Allied fleet did not fight using conventional methods. Captain Dong Wu Lee led the fighter assault with his mixed squadrons, employing tactics that confused and frustrated Vorthak point defense systems. All wings execute the spiral dance maneuver. Change your attack vectors every 30 seconds. Force their targeting computers to constantly recalibrate their firing solutions. The Keltharian heavy cruisers did not engage the Vorthak dreadnoughts in direct frontal combat. Instead, they used their superior maneuverability to attack the flanks and rear areas of the enemy formation, forcing the Vorthak to split their defensive fire across multiple threat vectors simultaneously. Nexari assault squadrons, traditionally used for direct frontal attacks, instead focused on hit-and-run strikes against Vorthak support vessels. This crippled the enemy's ability to maintain formation integrity and tactical coordination. Vorthak battle line is beginning to fragment and lose cohesion, reported the Zilani tactical analyst, who had been assigned to the command staff. Their field commanders are struggling to maintain coordination when they cannot predict our next tactical move. But the Vorthak were not helpless against these new methods. Their flagship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Dominion, began systematically destroying Allied ships with weapons that seemed to ignore conventional defensive systems entirely. We need to eliminate that flagship before it destroys our entire fleet, Admiral Choi decided after watching several Allied ships disappear under its devastating firepower. All available units concentrate all fire on the Eternal Dominion. The combined Allied fleet poured everything they had at the Vorthak flagship. Energy beams, missile salvos, and exotic weapons from a dozen different civilizations struck its shields simultaneously. But the massive vessel absorbed the punishment without any apparent effect on its combat capability. Worse, its return fire was devastatingly accurate, eliminating Allied vessels faster than they could be replaced by reserves. Jinho Nam suddenly looked up from his engineering console with excitement in his voice. I understand their weakness now. The flagship's power core is using the same centralized design as their smaller ships, just scaled up to enormous proportions. If we can overload it with precisely timed, coordinated attacks, do it immediately, Taemin ordered without hesitation. The next phase of the battle became a desperate race against time. Allied ships had to coordinate their attacks with split-second precision, while the Eternal Dominion continued to destroy them methodically with each passing minute. Captain Dong Wu, Li led what everyone knew was a suicide attack, directly at the flagship's primary power coupling system. His fighter squadron weaved through defensive fire that vaporized the space around them. Ghost Squadron, maintain tight formation. We only get one chance to make this work. His fighters carried modified torpedoes designed specifically by Jinho Nam's engineering teams for this single mission. They struck the Eternal Dominion's power core in perfect synchronization, creating multiple simultaneous explosions. The blast created a cascade failure that rippled through the massive vessel's entire energy distribution grid. For a crucial moment, the flagship's weapons fell completely silent. In that brief window of opportunity, every Allied ship in the fleet concentrated their fire on the same target coordinates with everything they possessed. The Eternal Dominion's shields collapsed completely. Then its hull began to buckle and break apart under the combined assault from the entire Allied fleet. Secondary explosions bloomed across its surface as internal systems overloaded and failed catastrophically. Flagship is breaking apart completely, reported So Young Kang with barely contained excitement. Vorthak fleet coordination is collapsing across their entire battle line. Without their command ship providing tactical coordination, the Vorthak battle line lost the rigid discipline that had made them invincible for 12 millennia. Individual ship captains began making independent decisions, breaking formation to protect their own vessels rather than maintaining the collective strength that had been their greatest tactical advantage. The tide of battle had finally turned in favor of the defenders. Admiral Hyojin Choi watched the tactical display as the Vorthak fleet formation completely fell apart. Without their flagship providing central command and control, the ancient empire's disciplined battle line became a collection of individual ships making desperate decisions to save themselves. All units, general assault, she ordered across the fleet communication network. Hit them while they are disorganized and cannot coordinate their defensive responses. The Allied fleet, fighting with the desperate courage of beings defending their homes and families, pressed their attack with renewed intensity and determination. Ships that would have been destroyed instantly by concentrated Vorthak firepower now found isolated enemy targets they could engage successfully. Dr. Yuna Kim monitored Vorthak communications as their military coordination completely broke down across the entire battle area. They are requesting permission to withdraw from the engagement. Their field commanders are reporting that continued resistance is tactically illogical given their current loss ratios. Commander Taemin Park realized this was the crucial moment that would determine the future of galactic civilization. So Young, open a direct communication channel to all remaining Vorthak vessels in the battle area. When the connection was established, he broadcast a message that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Vorthak fleet, you have fought with honor according to your ancient military traditions, but this galaxy is no longer the same one you left 12,000 years ago. We have learned to stand together against common threats. We have learned to adapt to new challenges. We have learned that unity makes us stronger than any single empire. No matter how powerful their technology might be, he paused, looking around the bridge at officers from multiple species working together in perfect harmony. You may withdraw to the void beyond the galaxy if that is your choice. If you choose to remain and join the galactic community as equals rather than conquerors, you will be welcomed with open arms. But the age of galactic empires ruling over others through force is finished forever. The response came from the surviving Vorthak fleet commander. We acknowledge the strength of the United Worlds and their tactical superiority. We withdraw to consider your words carefully. As the remaining Vorthak ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving the battlefield to the victorious Allied forces, the Bridge of the Liberation erupted in celebration. Species that had barely spoken to each other just months earlier, now embraced as battle-tested comrades who had saved civilization together. Captain Dongwu Li, whose suicide attack on the enemy flagship had turned the tide of the entire battle, was rescued by Allied search and rescue teams. His damaged fighter had somehow survived the massive explosions, and he became the hero of the greatest victory in galactic history. In the weeks and months that followed, as the galaxy began to rebuild from the devastating war, the transformation of galactic civilization was remarkable and unprecedented. The crisis had forced different civilizations to work together in ways they had never imagined possible before. The invasion-old trade agreements were replaced by genuine partnerships based on mutual respect and shared experience. Military alliances that had been formed out of desperate necessity evolved into cultural exchanges and scientific cooperation. The barriers between species began to break down as they realized how much they could accomplish together. Captain Dongwu Li, promoted to admiral in the newly formed Galactic Defense Force, often reflected on how completely everything had changed. Humanity had gone from being dismissed as irrelevant newcomers to becoming the catalyst that had saved galactic civilization and brought all species together. Dr. Yuna Kim established the Institute for Interspecies Cooperation, where the lessons learned during the Vorthak War would be preserved and studied for future generations. The key insight that emerged from their research was simple but profound. Diversity of thought and approach was more valuable than uniformity of power and technology. Jin Ho Nam became the head of the new Galactic Technology Integration Project, where the best innovations from all species were combined to create hybrid systems that were superior to anything any single civilization could develop alone. So Young Kang was appointed as the first director of interspecies communications, establishing translation and coordination protocols that would prevent the kinds of misunderstandings that had nearly led to disaster. Commander Taemin Park was promoted to Supreme Commander of Allied forces and addressed the new Galactic Assembly in its first official session. Representatives from every species sat together as equals for the first time in galactic history. "We have learned many important lessons from this crisis," he told the assembled delegates. "We learned that being underestimated can sometimes be an advantage in conflict. We learned that being different from others can be a source of strength rather than weakness. Most importantly, we learned that the voice that sounds like a distant echo can become the rallying cry that saves everything we hold dear." The Galactic Assembly voted unanimously to establish new principles for interspecies relations based on cooperation rather than competition, mutual assistance rather than dominance, and shared exploration of the galaxy rather than territorial conquest. The humans who had entered the galactic stage as dismissed echoes from the outer rim had become the voice that taught the galaxy how to sing in harmony. They had proven that sometimes the most unexpected species can provide exactly the leadership that civilization needs in its darkest hour. Years later, when new species achieved spaceflight and joined the galactic community, they were welcomed not as potential threats or inferior newcomers, but as valuable additions to the great choir of galactic civilization. The lesson of the Vorthak War had been learned permanently. Every voice matters. Every perspective has value, and the strength of the galaxy lies in its diversity rather than in the dominance of any single power. The distant echoes had become a symphony of cooperation that would resonate across the stars for generations to come. Humanity had found its place not as conquerors or rulers, but as the species that had shown everyone else how to stand together when standing together was the only path to survival. The galaxy was no longer a collection of competing civilizations, but a unified community exploring the universe together, stronger because of their differences rather than despite them.